Welcome to the 700 Club. The U.S. is increasing pressure on Israel over the war against Hamas. President Biden warned that Israel could lose global support overnight for what he called indiscriminate bombing in Gaza.
Well, Israel's prime minister is publicly pushing back against the president's plan for Gaza after the war. Despite all the pressure, Israeli leaders are more determined than ever to destroy Hamas. Chris Mitchell reports from Jerusalem.
President Biden called for a change in Israel's current government, claiming it's, quote, making it very difficult for Prime Minister Netanyahu to move. While pledging continued military assistance to Israel, he criticized what he called indiscriminate bombing of Gaza and added, they have to be careful. The whole world's public opinion can shift overnight. We can't let that happen. There's also disagreement about what happens in Gaza after the war. In a statement thanking the U.S. for its support, Netanyahu repeated his opposition to the administration's stance on the Palestinian Authority ruling the territory.
I want to clarify my position. I will not let Israel repeat the Oslo mistake. I will not allow that after the great sacrifice of our citizens and fighters, we bring into Gaza those who teach terrorism, support terrorism, finance terrorism. Gaza will be neither Hamastan nor Fatahstan.
Tuesday, the UN General Assembly voted for an immediate ceasefire. Israeli Ambassador Gilad Erdan blasted the vote.
No piece of paper, especially one that is adopted by a biased, politicized majority, will prevent Israel from defending itself against those that seek our destruction. Israel is fighting a war for her future. There is not a single member state here, not a single member state here that would act differently in a similar situation.
A Wall Street Journal poll showed a majority of Americans support Israel in its fight against Hamas. 55% said Israel is taking the military action needed to defend itself and prevent another attack by Hamas, while only 25% said Israel's military action is disproportionate and going too far. Meanwhile, in Gaza, 8 Israeli soldiers died in the fighting on Tuesday. While the Wall Street Journal is reporting the IDF has started pumping seawater into Hamas's tunnels to destroy one of its main military assets and drive out top leaders. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Well, it's absolutely time for moral clarity in our administration and in our leadership, and they need to leave the politics behind them on this. The moral clarity needs to be clear. If you want to double mean it and double stamp it, there was a horrible terrorist attack. It was planned for a long period of time. In that planning, they designed to use rape as a weapon of war. They were designed to kill children. They did this, and they did it horrifically, and they did it in the name of Hamas, in the name of free Palestine from the river to the sea. Now, Israel has an absolute moral right to defend itself and to take Hamas off the map so Hamas cannot exist anymore. But what's happening right now, and you heard it from our own president, that Israel has to be careful, that public opinion can turn overnight. Public opinion isn't going to turn at all. We all recognize what Hamas did. What is happening is the Democratic Party is turning overnight, and it's splitting right now. And it's splitting on demographic lines, where young people who have been indoctrinated into somehow Israel is a colonial power, Israel is an apartheid state, all of which are false narratives at their very core. It's absolutely false. Israel has a right to the land of Israel, the Jewish people. It's their ancestral homeland. They have the right of self-determination. That has been international law since the League of Nations. You look at this and say, well, the UN passed a resolution authorizing it. Israel was recognized in 1948. The only people that didn't recognize it were the Palestinians. They have been calling for the removal of Israel now for over 75 years. We have to stand against that call and say, no, You don't get to do this. You don't get to drive Israel into the sea. This is a false hope on your part that somehow you're ever going to win this battle. You're not going to. Please lay down your weapons. Please stop this terrorism. The clarion call needs to be Hamas has to unconditionally surrender. Hamas has to give up the hostages. Hamas has to stop terrorism. And until they do, Israel has every right to pursue this war. Well, let's talk more about this divide among the Democrats and the demographic divide. Here at home, billions of dollars in foreign cash is financing anti-Israel instruction and protests on college campuses. The funds are coming from an unusual combination of Islamist and left-wing sources, and they're turning young minds against the Jewish state. CBN's Gary Lane tracks the money trail.
U.S. colleges and universities are swimming in pro-Hamas, anti-Israel cash. Dr. Rachel Ehrenfeld is the founder and president of the American Center for Democracy and the Economic Warfare Institute. She contends Saudi Arabia and Qatar are buying influence by sending billions of dollars for research to American colleges and universities. She believes this funding radicalizes young student minds through classroom instruction.
They brought in Palestinians, radical Muslims, Muslim Brotherhood, in order to change the curriculum. The professor who was teaching the subject, addressing it from his point of view, and falsifying, actually, history.
Charles Asher Small of the Institute for the Study of Global Anti-Semitism and Policy explains that 75% of Middle Eastern donations come through the Qatar Foundation. The royal family and foundation are closely allied with the Muslim Brotherhood, the movement that birthed Hamas.
The ruling royal family of Qatar has an oath with the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood is a reactionary, political, Islamist social movement. And the Muslim Brotherhood believes in destroying democracy, killing Jewish people, subjugating women, and weakening the West.
In a 7-year study of foreign funding to American universities, Small's group found that in recent years, nearly $5 billion flowed from Qatar to American institutions of higher learning. They include major universities like Texas A&M, Georgetown, Cornell, Carnegie Mellon, Northwestern, and Virginia Commonwealth. He believes the money specifically going to Texas A&M poses a national security threat to the United States.
Qatar owns all of the intellectual property right for 502 research projects funded by them at Texas A&M, including research that is connected to its nuclear research program at Texas A&M. Texas A&M is one of 3 universities with a research nuclear reactor.
There's also the growth of anti-Semitism on campus coming from pro-Palestinian groups, like Students for Justice in Palestine. According to the Anti-Defamation League, the SJP is a leading organizer of the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement. The ADL states it, quote, specializes in using confrontational tactics, such as disrupting student-run pro-Israel events. The group reportedly works closely with the Jewish Voice for Peace, which, according to the Washington Free Beacon, has received $650,000 since 2017 from the George Soros Open Society foundations. Soros has also reportedly given California's Tides Foundation, a group advocating social change and immigrant children's rights, at least $3.5 million to support student protests, similar to this one at San Francisco's Balboa High School.
Giving instructions to high school students what to chant and what to yell during the demonstration.
So what do we do to change the prevailing anti-Israel, anti-Semitic attitudes on U.S. college campuses?
Alumni of these universities should stop giving money, period. They betrayed the whole American way of life, American values, American Constitution, education, too.
Members of Congress are getting involved to limit the influence of foreign money on colleges and universities. The House recently passed the Deterrent Act, which now heads to the Senate for consideration, but it's unclear if there are enough votes for it to pass. Gary Lane, CBN News.
Well, please let your congressman, let your senator know how you feel about this, that the foreign influence essentially indoctrinating our own college students. And it's happening across America on multiple campuses, and it's being funded by billions of dollars in foreign money. And that's why we're seeing this change, and there's a complete change in attitude towards Israel. When I was growing up, there was no way you could ever support a terrorist. And the whole world horrified at what happened at the Munich Olympics and all the hijackings and the killings and the bombings and all of this. We would never have supported terrorism. But it's amazing to me, on our college campuses, days after what is the most horrific attack in Israel's history, when you see them chanting from the river to the sea, and you see what that means, it means an extermination of Israel. It means a complete genocide, that every Jew on the land should be killed or expelled. When you know what that phrase means, and then you see it on college campuses, and then you see college universities, university presidents saying, I can't condemn this. I believe in free speech. How have we gotten here? Well, we've gotten here because we've been bought and paid for. A unique effort is underway to encourage U.S. support for the Jewish state, so there's yet another side. Israel's National Library is bringing the history of Israel to communities across America, including right here in Virginia Beach. Charlene Aaron brings us the story.
The traveling exhibition of the National Library of Israel features 18 highlights from the library's collections. The goal is to inspire personal reflection on Israel and its history as it fights for its security and preservation.
The library is really thinking of itself as playing the role of reviving the spirit and the soul of the country.
Despite the October 7th attack and ongoing fighting, the newly renovated National Library of Israel officially opened October 29th in Jerusalem. While operating on a limited basis in the Holy Land, a world away in Virginia Beach, its treasures showcase the country's humanity in the face of inhumanity. National Library of Israel USA CEO Adina Canfield gave CBN News a tour of the gallery at the Reba and Sam Sandler family campus. Here she points out a note from Hungarian Jewish poet Hannah Senes, who was executed for helping Jews escape the Holocaust.
She says, "My dear beloved mother, I have no words. You alone will understand why there is no need for words. With endless love, your daughter."
Local leader and library board member Art Sandler hosted the community event and explained why the display came to Virginia Beach.
When I started learning about the library, I just couldn't believe what was there. I live here, so I wanted my friends and family and my community to see it.
Sandler hopes the exhibit can raise awareness and support for Israel in the face of growing anti-Semitism.
Apart from standing with Israel, there's this issue of Jew hatred that's just really come to the surface, and it's terrible. And so we have to do everything we can to combat that on the home front.
That includes a focus on what's happening on college campuses, according to David Makovsky of the Washington Institute and president of the library's U.S. affiliate.
A lot of these people are chanting things from the river to the sea. You're talking about eliminating one whole people. So I think the library is going to be there to, not to get political, but to bring people together around ideas of knowledge.
Makovsky also pointed out how the library's old building in Israel is being used as a classroom during the war.
They're not in their schools, and they've been been displaced, and the library's trying to fill that gap and have special programming for the kids so that they don't miss the regular experience of being a kid and going to school.
Many visitors came away inspired after taking in the history.
The terrifying ordeal, it's a page taken from the Holocaust, what they did to us. And it is refreshing in a way to be reminded of how much we have given to the world.
It's so important to have this library open now and to show the world that we're still existing, that we still have hope.
Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Please take time to get educated on the real history, get educated on the League of Nations, what happened in San Remo over 100 years ago, what happened in 1948, what are the Jewish claims to the land, what is the international right of self-determination that our own president, President Woodrow Wilson, put in place as part of international law. The Jewish people have a right to exist. They have a right to self-determination. They have a right to self-defense. As Americans, we need to stand for these rights and say anyone that wants to drive them out and say from the river to the sea, no, not on our watch. You don't get to do that.